Through your prayerful support, Premier expanded beyond radio, serving the emerging generation via digital and printed publications. Please welcome Deputy Editor of Premier Youth Work and Children's Work, Jamie Cutteridge, and Tom Clark, Youth Pastor for Holy Trinity Brompton.
Good evening. We're told that the church has a problem with young people. We're told that young people aren't interested in Jesus. But the statistics tell us that churches with youth work and churches with children's work are far more likely to be growing. The statistics tell us that if people are going to become Christians, they're most likely to do it before they're 18. And so we look at those two and we can tell that working with young people and working with children is hugely important. And that's where Premier Youth Work and Premier Children's Work come in. Through our magazines and through our websites, we hope to resource, equip and inspire churches all over this country and beyond to meet the next generation of disciples and church leaders. The magazines include resources, news, features, ideas, or as we like to call it, a monthly hug for youth workers and children's workers. But obviously, I'm somewhat biased. I work on these magazines every day. So I brought Tom with me. Tom is Head of Youth for Holy Trinity Brompton, and more importantly than that, he's a subscriber to Premier Youth Work. Somewhat more importantly than that. Tom, tell us a little bit about the impact that Premier Youth Work has on both your youth work and youth ministry all over the country.
Thanks, Jamie. Well, I love Premier Youth Work. I probably like it a little too much. And I think Premier Youth Work has a significant impact on my ministry. And I know it's had an effect on ministry around the nation and the world. I think Premier Youth Work kick-starts youth workers into reflective practitioning, which is what we're all called to be. Reflective practitioners. I think it gives you that kick that you need every now and again just to think about your youth ministry and how it's going and how well it's developing. And for the rest of the nation, I think the resources are amazing. Sometimes we don't plan a session as youth workers. And every now and again, we need to pull out our trusty Youth Work magazine and go to the resources at the back, and we've got a session there ready for us. That doesn't happen a lot, but sometimes we need it. So yeah, it's very, very helpful.
It might happen more than we care to admit. What impact has it had on you personally, though?
I was thinking about this. I think a couple of things. One is, I remember when I was at St. Michael at Belfry in New York as youth worker there, and there was an issue, I think it was October 2010, and I keep all the issues, which I think is okay.
You're so keen.
I'm quite keen. But I remember this issue was on Disciples That Last, and it was talking about how there's a generation of young people that have left the church. 70% of young people, apparently, who go to university, having been at church when they were at home, leave church when they arrive at university. And I remember thinking when I read that issue, we could do something different. We could claim young people for Christ, or God could claim them for himself, and we could help them develop their faith, and a faith that lasts. And that stood with me for a while, and I still think about that issue a lot. And just recently, future of youth work, and starting to dream big about what that can look like. So yeah, personally, it's affected me quite a lot.
And the final question, if you were to recommend Premier Youth Work to another youth worker, and to be honest, I hope you would, or we've got the wrong person up here, but if you were to do that, what would you say?
Well, a lot of youth workers know that I like it, because I look for the dates that youth workers tend to arrive on. Premier Youth Work tends to arrive at the middle of the month.
It's about the 15th.
Yeah, the 15th. I didn't want to say it in case it wasn't. There's the 15th, and I always look, and I know it's coming. And I've got two issues. I have one that arrives home, and one that arrives into the office at work. And the one that arrives into the office at work goes around everyone, and we all have a look at it. And the one that arrives at home, I save it. First of all, I usually take a picture, and I upload it to Instagram, and then everyone can see it, which is slightly weird, but I do that. And I think I'd say this. I think Premier Youth Work is it's a prophetic love letter to youth workers around the country. It speaks to them in times when I think they need it most. It speaks to them at times I think they probably don't even realise they need it. And somehow God uses this print to change youth work around the country. I can't imagine the amount of young people that have been affected because of their youth workers reading this magazine. It's got to be millions. Surely millions of young people around this nation, around the world, have been affected because of this prophetic love letter that comes through their letterbox every month. So thank you for writing it.
Well, thank you, Tom. 2 subscriptions. You can tell why we got them up here. So here's the thing. The thing we're passionate about is young people. The thing we're passionate about specifically is young people coming to know Jesus. We know that if we want that to happen, that's got to happen really before they're 18. We know if there's going to be a future for the church in this country, for amazing buildings like this to continue to be filled with Christians in this country, the church needs to be investing in youth and children's work now. And our job as magazines is to kind of be the middleman and to resource and equip youth workers and children's workers to continue that work among children and young people. And we couldn't do that without the support of many people in this room. The ongoing generosity of people who support Premier and support Premier youth work and Premier children's work has a real impact. You're making a real difference in the lives of children and young people. You're ensuring the future of the church in this country when magazines support youth workers like Tom. So, here's the kicker. Because this is what we're passionate about, and because that passion is bigger than financial targets and bottom line figures and all of that stuff, we've decided that all of the resources in Premier Youth Work and Premier Children's Work are going to be available for anyone who wants them for free. From August the 1st, if you go, yeah, I think that's worth a round of applause. So from August the 1st, if you go to Premier Youth Work and premierchildrenswork.com, all of our meeting guides, all of our all-age service plans, our games, our craft and our schools ideas, our worship and reflective practice ideas, the whole kit and caboodle is there to download in easy formats for anyone that wants them. Because we're passionate about the next generation and we're passionate about the church equipping that generation. And this is a really significant step for us, and we're really excited about it. And we can only do this, we can only equip these youth workers and children's workers, we can only make a difference in the next generation because of your ongoing support for Premier Youth Work and Premier Children's Work. We're excited about where we're going next, and we're so grateful for your support. Thank you.